If President Lopez Obrador invited the American military and our law enforcement personnel to come into Mexico and work with his, we could stop the cartels, couldn't we? Couldn't we? Couldn't we?
U.S. politicians are concerned about a drug that is killing many people and they blame Mexico. They have always blamed Mexico. To begin with, Mexico is not the only country that traffics drugs, and not only the drug enters through the southern border. Why they don't mention the other countries that traffic drugs, and why don't they mention the states through which a lot of drugs enter, such as Florida and many more. But let's see what the real problem is exactly. What happens in the United States? We all know where the red zones are, and it's not a question why we all know it. We all know it. Hispanics, whites, African Americans, Chinese, Arabs, Philippine, Japanese, Italians, and from all over the world who live in the USA. We know about every town, every county, every city. We even know where the famous zombie cities. We want to know if the politicians are really worried or it's just a campaign to win an election. Apparently they only worry when it's about time for people to take sides in the elections. Do you remember the wall? It was not finished, nor did Mexico pay El Chapo Guzman. Well, the traffic has not ended, and we all know why. It is a multi-million-dollar business that hides more powerful heads and is difficult to capture because of their positions and their ability to evade the law. That is why they do not want to mention the names of big traffickers from the United States, because we also know that all the drugs that enter, which are tons, hundreds of tons, that for some reason go unnoticed by all the states, nobody knows how they magically get everywhere, but that's something else. Let's focus on the red zones. These red zones they have been around for decades. Everywhere people know which neighborhoods not to visit, how not to walk, the most dangerous neighborhoods, violence, drugs, robberies, alcohol, sex. Those are the red zones. Politicians mention concern the children of the United States are dying from drugs and addictions, but we all know that this is not new. This has always existed. We always know that when they refer to their children, they refer to their forgotten children whom they reject when they see them on the street. Those children whom they put aside, who have no voice and who they don't care that they drug themselves to death. And we know all this because the violence in the neighborhoods doesn't stop, and with it the addictions. Thousands of videos confirm that they don't care and haven't cared for decades to clean the streets and dangerous neighborhoods of the cities. Their hypocrisy is so much that we can read in their faces that they really do not care, and we all know it. And we wonder when they are going to clean up these red zones. The answer is never, because on the one hand they worry and on the other they create insecurity among the population, harass working people, and we wonder when it will finally be possible to walk in these red zones, and the answer is no, very soon. And we know it because every day thousands of addicts walk the streets among the normal people who work every day between children and schools. Meanwhile, the politicians live in their mansions, feeding their information from the conventional news that do not show the reality of the problem. And let everyone know that when politicians say our children, they are not referring to their children because their children live in good house, have good education and a good economic state. They refer to the forgotten children of the state. If they really cared about what is happening, they would cleanse these red zones of addicts and work to help them in rehab centers. But they don't want rehab centers, they want wars. They want to build hatred between countries. They focus on blaming and not on investing to help. They scare the population with false news, and they know that Americans suffer from old age, and they fill them with negative information. The next time you see your politician, ask him to clean up these areas. Red and working on these forgotten brothers, treating them in rehabilitation centers and cleaning up these local traffickers to make laws to hunt down local traffickers in each of the cities and towns. We cannot demand other countries to work for us if we do not work in our own problem. Mexico suffers from terrible violence because the cartels buy weapons from the United States. The United States is making pacts with political organizations to hit the current government. They corrupt judges, ministers in Mexico to release the heads of cartels. Why don't they say that those corrupt judges released Guzman? Let's make a better country and stop the blame on other countries. We got enough with the hate from the world. This is dedicated to the forgotten people of the state.